Welcome to Television Sydney News. I'm Melanie Kembry. It's great to have you with us. In this bulletin, the mystery of the blood in the Cubby house, celebrating a century in business and frocked up 50s fever. But first, motorists who appear in Mount Druitt local court on charges of driving under the influence of drugs have a fair chance of escaping punishment, NRMA figures show. 132 motorists faced such charges between 2007 and 2010. 55 of them, or 41%, walked free without penalty. Motoring experts and police have expressed concern about the figures. NRMA Western Sydney Director David Bentham questioned whether magistrates were sending the right message to motorists. Mount Druitt Highway Patrol Officer Senior Sergeant Frank Gall is unhappy about the number of offenders escaping penalty and said drugs were as much a danger to driving as alcohol. And police continue to search through Riverwood swampland for a body, weapon or any evidence that might explain a large pool of human blood found in a school cubby house on January 31. Riverwood Public School staff discovered more than a litre of blood inside the wooden cubby house after returning from school holidays. About a dozen officers searched through muddy mangroves in Salt Pan Reserve on Tuesday morning. Campsie police say the blood belongs to a man but did not match any known missing person. Organised gangs are offering trade work like roof painting and concrete laying and then failing to complete the work or demanding high payments. Fair Trading Minister Anthony Roberts said the conmen often used unregistered business names and had no licence details. Residents in 3 houses in Toongabbie reported paying for dodgy roof painting work, and in Carlingford, conmen destroyed a driveway after offering to lay bitumen. A national hotline has been set up so residents can report sightings or information. 18 workers will be unemployed when a women's underwear distribution centre in Wentworthville closes. A spokesman for Pacific Brands, the owner of Burleigh, confirmed the Dunmore Street Centre is for sale. He said the centre would close in mid-April. Pacific Brands will cut 106 jobs in Sydney and create 76 full-time jobs in Melbourne. National Union of Workers spokesman Mark Ptolemy said the decision was callous and disloyal to Pacific Brands workers in Sydney. One of the country's oldest chambers of commerce will this year celebrate its 100th anniversary. Once a volunteer organisation, the Parramatta Chamber of Commerce has become a body with a corporate focus and more than 400 members. Director Paul Dillon said when the chamber first opened in 1912, Parramatta was a market town known for food and retail.
It's still 100 years of a lot of people putting in a huge effort to get there, and 100 years means you've achieved a lot, otherwise you wouldn't still be going. So there's a lot of achievements to celebrate and a lot of celebrating to do.
Mr Dillon said Parramatta would evolve to become a centre for the service industries.
I think it will change remarkably in the next 20 years. We really need to do something about transport and infrastructure, otherwise we're not going to have what we really need in 20 years' time. There'll be a lot of service industries, obviously, and a lot less manufacturing, but it will be a high-tech city.
Cammelway residents don't want a gambling institution to replace a family-run video store in their suburb. Tabcorp plans to open a TAB in the premises, now occupied by Blockbuster at Cammelway Marketplace. Video store owner Sam Romano says residents have drafted a petition against the TAB. A Tabcorp spokesman says the store is relocating from Greystanes because Pemulwuy is a stronger retail precinct. St George Public School teachers are backing recommendations of a review of education funding. The report, commissioned by the federal government, said Australian schooling must lift the performance of all the students at all levels of achievement. Australian Education Union President Angelo Garavelatos says the federal government funding system is inequitable, with 2/3 of funding going to private schools that educate 1/3 of the students. He said public schools had been starved of resources for too long. Moorebank's new Brighton Golf Club will be transformed into one of the most impressive real estate and golf developments in New South Wales. The club recently entered a joint venture with Mirvac Homes to develop up to 16 hectares of golf course for a new residential estate. The development includes a new clubhouse, entertainment and function rooms, health and fitness facilities and a restaurant. Campbelltown and Camden Tourism is set to do a roaring trade with plans for a regional tourism information centre at the Australian Botanic Garden at Mount Annan. The centre will be in the car park of the garden, where the number of visitors has almost doubled in the past year. Director Kaz McCullum says the Information Centre will feature attractions throughout Macarthur. A collection of Australian reptiles will be on display at the Hawkesbury Herpetological Society's Reptile Show in Penrith on Sunday, March 4. Central bearded dragons and a young yellow anaconda are some of the draw cards. Society President John Mostyn said reptiles made great pets, which only needed feeding either once a week or fortnight and didn't make any noise. The Reptile Show will be held in the Panthers Pavilion. A contemporary exhibition showcasing artwork across media, culture and politics is on show at Casula Powerhouse. The exhibition, titled Panorama, features both established and emerging Australian artists. Photographer Nicholas Augelou has a series of images depicting Middle Eastern culture on display in the Marsden Gallery.
Basically, these images I shot myself between 2008 and 2009 on various trips to Iran, Iraq and Syria. They show people's daily lives, basically a spectrum of how people live, you know, what their traditions are, their sort of religious background, their cultural identity, and certain things mingled in.
Augelou says he hopes those interested in Middle Eastern culture will come and see his photographs.
I would like people to come and see my work, for example, if they are of Assyrian heritage, or if they want to understand something about Assyrian heritage, or if they're just curious about the Middle East in general. Just to come have a look at the images and to see a part of the Middle East that they wouldn't normally hear about, that they wouldn't normally experience. And well, Southwest Sydney has a very large ethnic Assyrian population, so to get to understand their own neighbours, the people that live next door to them.
Panorama will run until March 13 and is open Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Entry is free. And now to sport. 12-year-old Liam McCann has smashed a sprinting record that was held for 34 years. He achieved a time of 13.4 seconds in the 12-year-old boys' 100-metre sprint at the Blue Mountain Zone's Little Athletics Championships recently, shaving 0.3 seconds off the record set in 1978. A remarkable feat given he hadn't been involved in the sport since 2006. Liam said he was surprised by his time.
Before I didn't know, and when we were having a look at what the record was, we got really shocked because that I did it.
The Glenbrook Little Athletics Club representative hopes to get even better at his favourite athletics event.
I'm hoping to try to break records in the future and trying to get quicker at my 100 metres.
And after blitzing the competition at the Region 2 Carnival at Blacktown International Sports Park at the weekend, Liam will now progress to the state competition to be held next month. And in baseball, Blacktown workers have qualified for the Women's Major League semi-finals with a round to play following a 10-4 win over Cronulla. New South Wales representative Pani Monaroa-Taylor completed 4 innings as pitcher and only gave up 1 run. Workers will play Balcombe Hills in Week 1 of the semi-finals on March 2. Parramatta United Cricket Club has called stumps on its 91-year existence in the Fairfield-Liverpool Cricket Association competition. The Foundation Club had their last stand earlier this month with a charity match at their home ground at St John's Park. Long-term secretary Brett Burton said it was an end of an era after the club failed to attract players. And staying with sport, the Greater Western Sydney Giants can hold their heads high after spirited performances in the NAB Cup at Rooty Hill last Saturday night. The young side, many playing their first game of AFL at the highest level, gave Western Sydney plenty to cheer about when they almost upstaged both Western Bulldogs and Collingwood Magpies to go down 5 and 3 points respectively. Collingwood coach Nathan Buckley was impressed and predicted the Giants would win their fair share of games this season. And finally, Campbelltown residents had their hair cut by Marilyn Monroe on Wednesday, and it was all for a good cause. The hairdressers and beauty therapist from Hierarchy in Campbelltown frocked up 50s style and had mocktails, nibblies and 50s music playing on the day to raise money for the special care nursery at Campbelltown Hospital.
My little boy was in special care for 2 weeks of his life. One of the other hairdressers here, Kim, her little girl was in special care nursery. It's basically the forgotten area of the hospital, so we figure if we can raise money, we can take the money to them. We can pick a piece of equipment which we'd like the money to go towards, and they can go off so that way we know what we're giving to them is going to them. But another reason why was because they just help you in more ways than you can imagine.
Mr. Hodge said all donations and about 30% of profits made on the day would go to the nursery. And that's all the news we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.